you want to make the experience of the player as smooth as possible. Like the game was originally developed for their original language and their original culture, right? So that it really resonates and that they can enjoy an immersive experience in their own language. Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Marina Ilari. I am originally from Argentina, but I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been living here for more than 15 years, so it's been a long time. My training is as a translator, so I am a certified translator of Spanish. And I also am the CEO of Terra Translations, a company that my mother built, and I've been the CEO now for 7 years. Before that, I took part in many different roles within the company, from linguistic roles such as translator, reviewer, to also more management roles like project management, vendor management. And then now I lead the team of over 200 professionals at Terra. And I love what I do. We focus a lot in the gaming industry. That's one of the main specializations that my company has. Yeah, it's very interesting because when you think about translation and what's usually considered to be a good quality translation, you think of words like being accurate, being complete, being faithful to the original, things of that nature, right? But when you think of localization, you're talking about a translation that is user-oriented. And the main goal in localization is, especially in game localization, is entertainment and resonating with the players in the case of video games. So that's what we do. We adapt the games into different languages so that they not only have translations in different languages, but they are also tested in different languages so that the experience that players have around the world is equal or as much close as possible as what the game was originally developed in. We do a lot of games, for example, that were originally developed in English, and then we localize them into many different languages. Again, not only taking into account the localization of words, the translation of words, but also cultural aspects that might need to be adapted for a specific audience. There are many different things that can be adapted in a game, from the game's title. And this has been done in so many different really big franchise games where the name of the title maybe had celestial or religious tone to it and needs to be adapted to some markets where that wouldn't resonate well in. That's just one example of the name adaptation. That's a pretty drastic one though, but it's one that happens. The cover of the game as well could be adapted. I know, for example, Dead Island had the logo was a shamble like zombie creature that wouldn't resonate well with some audiences, so it was adapted. So lots of visual things. It could also be things with fonts, things with colors, things, for example, there are some markets that don't allow the use of skeletons in games. So those are adapted. Some regions are also banning things that have to do with blood. So the concept of blood might need to be adapted. For example, whenever there's like red blood, it might be like blue in a different country, so that they don't directly tie it with the concept of blood. So many different aspects need to be taken into account, from big things like I was saying that affect the design of the game, to other things that are like micro adaptations that will just resonate better with a specific culture. So we will change this word out, or we will switch this concept out. There was a game we worked on not long ago that had gods as the different heroes in the games. Those were translated as masters in the MENA region, for example, as the gods concept would not have resonated well with that audience in particular. So many different things that need to be taken into account, and that's why it's not just translation, but it's really localization that encompasses a lot of more than just the translation of text. So I studied literary translation. That's my degree. I later on pursued a postgraduate degree as an expert in video game localization, which is, again, an area that my company works in and I'm very, very passionate about. Many people in my field of work have studied some career related to languages. It's very common that they study translation or linguistics and then decide to pursue the localization route. As part of my studies, I needed to show that I had a certain level of proficiency in English in order to pursue the translation degree. And it's usually like that. If you're going to pursue translation, you have to have a certain degree of fluency in another language in order to be able to pursue academic training in translation. The more languages you speak, of course, the better, because it opens more possibilities to the type of projects that you might be involved with and the type of opportunities out there. But you just need 2 languages, and most translators translate into their native language, their mother tongue. So as long as you have a fluency proficient level in your second language and, of course, an absolute proficiency into your native language, you would be set to go to work as a linguist. Many times it is perceived that the second language, that the language that you're learning, that you need to be the absolute best at that language. And of course, that helps a lot, but certainly you do need to be a complete expert in the language that you're translating into, which is usually your native language. The language that I use the most aside of English is Spanish. And not only is that because I originally trained as a translator and worked as a translator for many years into Spanish, but also because many of the people I interact with nowadays speak Spanish in their native language. So I have a lot of meetings and correspondence and everything in Spanish. So I use Spanish a lot during my day. And yeah, it was necessary for me to have a proficient level of Spanish in order to start doing the work that I'm doing now. That's an excellent question. Usually developers and publishers will pursue 2 different markets into Spanish. One of them is European Spanish, the one that's spoken in Spain. And the other one is Latin American Spanish, which is a neutral form of Spanish that is really not spoken anywhere, but it's sort of seeks to resonate with all of Latin America. So all Latin American Spanish people are very used to consuming entertainment through dubbing, through subtitling in neutral Latin American Spanish. So this is a variant that looks to fit to everyone or to cater to everyone in Latin America. So usually, at least there's those 2 distinctions. There's also hyperlocalization when a client is specifically interested, say, in the Mexican market, and they want to hyperlocalize their content and their games into Mexican Spanish, just to name one specific variant. But the most common 2 variants that are used are the European Spanish and the Latin American Spanish. There is a concept in our industry that is called culturalization. So again, going beyond the localization, it's what cultural adaptations will you make to the game to serve a specific audience. I gave some examples of things that were originally developed in a certain language, and then you adapt them in a way that would fit to a different market. But there's also a proactive approach that you can take as a developer, as a publisher, and that is to think about, okay, I'm interested in, say, the Brazilian market. I am particularly interested in resonating with gamers there. What else can I incorporate in the game to resonate with those players. So what aspects of their culture can I take and add them there so that it gets their attention, that they feel included in the choices, the cultural choices of that game. So, for example, say you want to create a promotion for a specific game that celebrates Carnival, which is like a very popular holiday in Brazil, say. And so that's how you would utilize your knowledge of the culture and its traditions, its beliefs, its values, its holidays, anything that might resonate with that specific culture, and also proactively include it in the game so that you resonate better with the players. But aside of the games itself, I actually work a lot with different cultures because I work with many translators from many different parts of the world. So I always have to be well informed about how different cultures communicate, what their expectations are. I have to constantly be very flexible and empathetic towards different ways of seeing the world and interacting with the world. So that's definitely something I deal with on a day-to-day basis in the work that I do. Well, one of the things that I enjoy the most actually is interacting with so many people from around the world and learning about different cultures and different ways of seeing the world. Sometimes you're just so used to seeing the world a certain way because you grow up in a certain place and you have certain traditions and customs. But I love that open-mindedness that it gives you to learn about different ways of seeing the world, different cultures. So that's something I enjoy a lot about the work that I do. And it's always very diverse. So I always joke that I never get bored because every day, every game that we work on is a completely new challenge, right? Every game is its own universe, its own aesthetics, its own style, pursuing a specific type of genre and audience. And yeah, just like immersing ourselves in a specific universe and creating that for gamers at a global scale. It's a really gratifying experience, especially if you do like games and you appreciate the player experience as well. So I guess that's what I like the most about my work, the people I get to work with and the experience I get to bring through the work that I do. Okay, I'm going to start answering that question with the second part first. Yes, the language that you speak will have an impact in what you might charge, for example, as a translator, either if you're working on a freelance basis or if you're hired in-house to work at a company. Languages do have different values in the market, mainly due to the fact that there are many more people that speak a certain language and less people that are academically trained in translation that speak other types of languages. There are languages of limited diffusion that are a lot more expensive, that say a language like Spanish, where we have so many people in the world speaking it. So that's to answer the second part. For the first part, it really varies a lot depending on the role. If you are working in localization, there are so many different routes that you can take. You could start off, say if you're working in games, for example, you could start off as a tester of games and then move into maybe localization QA, quality assurance. The testing side of the business is usually an entry-level position. So salaries will be really entry level. But from there, you can go to management roles and, of course, director roles, head of localization. And all of those roles have different salary bands depending on the company, on where the company is based, and what the expectations of the role are, responsibilities, everything. So I would say if you are interested in localization, to check out what positions are available in your area in localization, and just to see and get a sense, but a better sense of the salary band, because it's very hard to say for localization what the medium salary would be. It really varies on the role, on the company, location, etc. For my line of work, usually the students would pursue a career in translation or even in localization. There are localization programs. I am also an adjunct professor at NYU for audiovisual translation. So that's certainly a specialization that they could pursue if they are interested in gaming or the entertainment industry, working on subtitling, on dubbing, on game localization and the like. So those would be the specializations. Again, you could just study linguistics or translation program or pursue a career in a specific language and then continue to specialize. It's very common. In fact, I started out as a literary translator and then ended up pursuing a postgraduate degree in game localization. So that's definitely another route that you can take. But again, as I said, usually people in my line of work have fluency in more than one language and they have pursued a career in translation or linguistics.